Welcome to our fourth episode in our Beyond the Boat podcast series. I'm Carla Johl. I'm a performance life coach with High Performance Sport New Zealand, and we work with Rowing New Zealand to support our rowers with everything beyond the boat. So in this episode, I'm talking to Rebecca Scown, who was in our elite rowing squad for many years. Rebecca grew up in the Taranaki and went on to become a double Olympic medalist. Rebecca won the bronze in the women's pair in the 2012 London Olympics alongside Juliette Hay, and silver at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games with Genevieve Berent. At Rio, Rebecca was also one of the first Kiwi rowers to contest in more than one event, competing in the pair as well as the women's 8. So an exciting rowing career. At the end of 2017, Rebecca retired from rowing and is now living in the UK, where she is the CEO of the Yes charity. So today we're going to talk about her transition from rowing and the exciting endeavours that she has embarked on since. So thanks for joining us, Rebecca.
Thanks for having me.
We're glad you could join us all the way from London and have a chat about what you're doing now and a bit about your time while you were rowing for New Zealand.
Yep, great.
So you've had a pretty amazing career representing New Zealand, and I only highlighted the Olympic medals, but there was a lot of other great racing from you alongside that. So what for you were some of the highlights during your rowing career?
I think obviously the Olympic races were definitely highlights. One other race in particular that I always, two races, but with the 8, winning a silver medal and qualifying the women's 8 for New Zealand, first time we'd done that at the World Champs in 2015. And then at the very last race that I rowed for New Zealand, which was the 8 in Florida, and we got a bronze medal finish result. But that race was such an amazing, exciting race to be a part of, because all 6 boats went down that course basically in one line. So it went super fast. You felt like you could barely move a muscle, take a breath, because you were just so focused on the intensity of the race. But it was really fun, and I loved that one. So that was a huge highlight for me.
Yeah, I can imagine the closer the races are, the more exciting they become, right? Those are the memorable ones, even more so than
absolutely.
Beating people by a lot.
Yeah, no, for sure, yeah.
So after a pretty impressive rowing career, what did it feel like to finally put the oars down and step away from all of that?
So for me, it felt really good. I was very ready. I'd had, as you mentioned, a pretty lengthy career in the New Zealand system. I felt really good about my results. I was happy. I really enjoyed the last phase of my career in terms of being part of the 8s program. And sort of, I think I just really felt like I'd done everything that I wanted to do. So when I finished, I actually thought I would retire at the end of the Rio Olympics, but at that point I wasn't really sure what it was that I wanted to do. So I took an extra year and came back to rowing, and that meant that I had a bit more time to be quite sure about my decision. And so when I finished, and I had that last year knowing I wasn't going to be continuing, so it just all wrapped up so nicely for me, and I was so ready, so prepared, and and I really just loved the end of my rowing career and the excitement about what was coming next.
So do you feel spoke about that extra year that you kind of took to row before you made the decision? Was there anything you did during that time period to kind of prepare to leave?
I think so. For me, what sort of stuck out, I tried to make a bit of a decision about retirement and career and things like that at the end of Rio, and then I realized I was just in too much of a bubble. I wasn't someone that knew what career I wanted to do specifically. I went to Auckland and I had a few sort of job interviews and looked around and spoke to career advisors, and there wasn't anything remotely that sort of stuck out to me. And then what did sort of things that I started looking at what things I actually really enjoyed, and I knew I wanted to sort of expand my horizons in a different way, and without knowing what career sort of I would head into. But I knew I wanted to be in London and around opportunity where things could happen in a vibrant city, lots of sort of things going on, travel and what have you, which I've become quite used to with rowing. And so, I took that extra year just to give myself the time to sort of be sure about that, to sort of set a few things up or make a plan. And I didn't really set up a huge plan as such. It was just more that I spoke to various people and about coming over to the UK, and then I knew by the time I'd finished at the end of the year in 2017, and I'd had an extra bit of income that year to sort of save up, and then I could go off and spend the next sort of phase in the UK. I did 6 months when I retired, looking for a job and just meeting everyone I possibly could, using the rowing network. And then that's sort of how I eventually found the job that I am in now.
Nice. You meant talked about just then about the rowing network. How important is that piece for you as you left, and the things you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, I love the rowing network. It's really been amazing for me, really enjoyable to tap into. And I think that's another exciting thing about finishing your sporting career, is actually all those years of rowing and those networks and connections you've made, you can actually go and make the most of them. So I think sometimes you've got to switch that kind of thought around. You're not giving up your sport. You're actually now able to take up lots of things that you could never do, but actually what you were trying to foster while you were in that athlete phase. So I think the rowing network, I still tap into it the entire time over here now with the job that I'm in, but it enabled me to come over to the UK because that was going to be quite a challenge anyway, just being a bit older. The visa restrictions were more challenging then. So they got me here basically.
That's awesome. And it's awesome that you're able to kind of maintain those relationships with those connections now, and they're still, I guess, supporting you and the work you're doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, the good thing, the good thing about the rowing network and rowers, and they all know what you're getting. I think there's a really good brand and stamp of approval that comes with a rower. Yeah. So I think that's another thing to utilise. And
that's very cool. And so, talking about your move over to the UK, how did you find that? What was the biggest challenge of trying to find your feet, I guess, in a new city, new country, spending that time trying to find a job? Tell me a bit about that.
So I had to have the job set up, which I managed to do, and then I came back to New Zealand and had to wait for my visa things to come through, which actually took quite a long time in the end, but I got there eventually. It wasn't difficult to settle here. I think I felt very at home in the UK, and I do. The rowers and all of my network and just various friends and things made the transition into living here very easy. And I think the work, it was just the challenge. I think it was just, the nature of my job. I came over, I am running a charity now, but it's to help disadvantaged kids get into sport, and we're a grant giving organisation. But I am the sole employee of this organisation, and I've had to grow it and run it and turn it into what it is now. And so that came with the challenges in terms of just understanding what London, the charity space, people, and their own challenges and what they were, and then having COVID 10 months after that, which put a bit of a yeah. But otherwise, but since then, it's amazing. It's quite a cool thing to go through with absolutely knowing nothing, but then, and it is really hard for a period of time, and I did sort of sit there and think, am I ever going to get it? Is it going to come together, etc. But it just does. It comes together just quite nicely, and you start to really find your feet, and then it gets really exciting. And so I think it's nice to have those challenges because you feel great when you overcome them, basically.
Yeah. And so how do you, having been away for quite a decent amount of time now, how do you stay connected back to family, people in New Zealand, a bit of those roots? Do you come back often? How do you do that?
Well, I'm not very good at it, I will say. But obviously I've got so many amazing friends and family and everything that I try and keep in touch with. I obviously utilize technology and WhatsApp and all of that. Yeah. But I got home at Christmas time for the first time in 4 years, which was longer, and I hadn't seen anyone for that time. And I had a couple of 3 nieces and nephews that were born that I hadn't met, that I got to meet this year, which was really nice. But I think obviously with COVID and what have you, it just sort of interrupted any visits in between coming back. So hopefully it won't be as long next time.
Yeah. Nice. And so you mentioned before the charity that you are now helping to run. I'm really interested to hear a little bit more about that. What exactly you do at the charity? What is your role? And you said you're the only employed person within the charity. So what is that role? How did you get involved? Tell us about the charity.
So I met the founder, Tony Mellon, through rowing. So he, I knew, obviously knew various people that connected me to him. He had a charity. His story was that he grew up in Hackney council estate upbringing, got involved with rowing, and that's sort of what led him to his pathway to success and him on that pathway in life. And he's been hugely successful, and then wanted to set up a charity which basically utilises sport, same sort of thing which he benefited from, to engage young people and get them raise their aspirations and in life and go on and do great things. So that's the background of the charity. I met Tony. He said, well, I've got this charity that's here, but I want to run and grow it and make it something more sustainable with more external input. And so he offered me the job. So in terms of what I do, it's everything. So there's, I have to go to the clubs, find good projects to support, partnerships. I'm dealing with corporates, high net worth individuals, trying to get them to support projects, creating events, organising. This year we've had the Hackney Half Marathon. Last year we did the Royal Parks Half Marathon and getting fundraising teams to fundraise for us. Lots of social media, I feel like I'm basically a jack of all trades and master of nothing really yet. But you get better and better all the time. But again, it's been a huge crash course in a career in different aspects of it. And so I'm very grateful that I've had that, because it wasn't just a one sort of type of job that I have been given experience and access to experience. So lots of ways to do. But I'm also getting better at recruiting volunteers and people to delegate to that willing to support. So I do.
Yeah, sounds like an amazing a charity and the work that you guys are doing. And from what you have said, you're kind of filling your toolbox with all these different skills and areas within the business that you're gaining, which sounds amazing. And thinking about that, I guess if we go back to your time as a rower, do you think what are some of the skills that perhaps you learned during that experience that have helped you be able to navigate this role and manage this role that you're in now?
Yeah, I think there are a number of skills. I think that a number of sort of things that you sort of pick up. I think staying sort of calm and understanding there's always a process involved, and you've got your goal, and just to go through slowly and knowing there's going to be highs and lows around that. Just having that sort of mentality and knowledge, I think, can help you through some tough situations. I think we're obviously very resilient. I would say handling feedback is really, and I really look for that. And I think a lot of people probably don't, but it's such a familiar thing for us athletes to just have that feedback and those honest conversations, and that's how we feel comfortable, because then we've got something to grab onto and work on. And then I think that whole sort of understanding people as well is huge, because we work in teams and we see people at their worst and their best, and but trying to bring different people all together to achieve the goal is quite a big thing we learn in team environments that others just don't quite understand, I think, to the same degree, just generally speaking. But so loads of great stuff.
It's amazing there, and that working in diverse teams, I can imagine over there, and that relates quite well to rowing when you're working with a crew of in an eight different, completely different people, and managing those relationships and the communication that you have. I feel like that would probably translate quite well to all the work that you're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you're constantly, no matter what your environment you're in, really in jobs, you are dealing with people and trying to get the best out of them in whatever sort of aspect. So people's skills are important.
Yeah, definitely. And so what is kind of upcoming for the charity in the next couple of months or the next year? What are the sort of big projects that you're getting to dive into?
We've got a really exciting project, the Islington Boxing Club, which is this really, it's been there for a long time. This sort of generations of family have been running it. It's a gritty, cool club that has links to celebrities and the Tyson Furies and everything else. But they do such an incredible job with the kids in their local community. And I go in there and I feel like I'm parented and that kind of thing. They're just really caring and know about everyone involved. But their building has been there, and when I say building, it's a whole lot of container ships and sort of some containers, I think, containers that have been put together and developed into sort of this 2-story, really makeshift kind of building that leaks and falling apart and is not fit for purpose. And so we are it will be and is going to be a huge project. So we're in the process of just setting up the films, and we've got a big global sort of media marketing company that are going to create a really exciting film to promote basically all around about it. And then I think it's about £4 or £5 million we need to raise. So we've got to find a lot of support, but we're gathering a big team to do it. That'll be external to the other sort of activities. But I think it'll be quite a really great project, a capital project to have done for us and for the charity, and it'll be really exciting with the people involved. A bit of stardust will be sprinkled around, I think, in various times. So it'll be fun. It'll be very good. So that's the big one, and then we've got lots of other things coming up. But
So obviously there's a lot going on with the charity. What do you think is like the biggest challenge for you now in that space, managing all of that, life outside of that? How do you balance all those pieces?
I think the time management is a thing. It's especially with the next big project, but I think I'm getting better at that. And I've one of my trustees is actually at the moment he's come on, but he's particularly skilled in strategizing and C-suite sort of management, and is mentoring me a bit more about processes and how to kind of achieve more and do more and go about things. So that's quite exciting. It's nice. I've had a bit of a phase of get in there and go and give it a go and experience work life, and then now I'm really excited about having someone come in to give me a bit of coaching to get me on to the next level, which is I think we always want to feel like we're progressing and adding value. So
that's awesome. And that's such a rowing trait that you're just showing there, where even in your new roles there, you're wanting to get better, wanting to get coached, wanting that feedback like you spoke about earlier, everything that you're doing. If I'm wrong, were you able to go to the coronation?
Yeah, I know I was. Honestly, I must have been really good in the past life. It was a very unexpected invitation, and I am a very lucky girl that I got to go. But I do feel like I went on behalf of many of us. But it was great. Yeah, so I was part of the New Zealand delegation, so invited through the New Zealand group, and the boxes I ticked, I think it was obviously being over here in London through sport and things, but it was the charity work that was recognised. So the King is very proud. I think there were a number of people that were invited from the charity space, which was really cool. And I had a great time. It was amazing. It was like going to a really sort of fancy wedding. It was that celebratory kind of feeling in the room, but you have all these celebrities and things, and they were all very very up for a chat, and just they were as excited to be there as everybody else. And we had 3 of the guys in our delegation had their cloaks on, and they looked amazing and gained us a lot of attention, particularly from the celebrities. So we were hanging around and having lots of good little chats, and so it was very cool.
Yeah, what an amazing experience, and to be able to represent New Zealand over there for the rest of us. We're all sit here pretty proud of the people who got to go and be New Zealand's representative for the King.
Yeah, no, it was cool. It was very cool. Once in a lifetime.
And now, are you still getting out on the boat at all, or?
No, I mean, I live right next to the river in Putney, and I live with the captain of the London Rowing Club, who goes rowing often. But I don't. I actually spend more time on my bike in this, and more so now that it's summertime over here. So it's really nice to get out and cycle and with different people and things. They do last summer, which I think they will do it again. They put on a Thursday evening some, they call them battle paddles, and I go and jump in on those if I can, which is basically they'll pair up two boats. Whoever's entered in the night, they'll pair up someone that's similar speed. And then I don't even think it's a 2K, full 2K, but it'll be the set rate like 26. So you go out there and you race really hard at 26 for 2K. So it's basically 4K in total, and then get off and go to the rowing club and have a drink with everyone and catch up in the sunshine. So it's really nice. That's the kind of stuff I enjoy now with rowing. And
it sounds like
a little bit more.
Good trade-off now that you're out of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So last kind of question for you, if you look back at your own career, having left and what you're doing now, what advice would you give to current rowers who are currently rowing for New Zealand or rowing at any level, wanting to maybe represent New Zealand, but who are in that space and wanting to maybe think about what next? What kind of advice would you give to current rowers?
For me, I really struggled to know career-wise what I wanted to do. And so I just made sure I had some study under my belt, that I had that box ticked, and that was something I could tick while I was rowing. I found it difficult to get the work experience and that sort of thing. I had one summer where I went to Auckland and did a little bit of it, but not a lot. So I didn't have that. But I would say don't overly stress about that either. I think people feel quite anxious about setting themselves up for the next phase. But I finished rowing at 35, 36 or something like that. And it doesn't take that much to slip into a career and start learning again. So I think another thing was just for me is just when trying to work out sort of careers and where you want to go and all of that is just understand where you enjoy being and who you enjoy being around and things that you enjoy, so that your transition, you've got great things to look forward to and you're excited about it. I don't put too much pressure, especially in the first instance of trying to make it the huge success. Give yourself a bit of freedom and time and try some things out. It's not, it can, it's not necessarily easy, but it's also quite exciting. And I think sometimes not knowing what's around the corner and getting yourself in a situation, meeting lots of people, talk to lots of people, ask them, for introductions if you need them. People are quite happy to help someone out. I've done that loads. I'm also really happy to help someone else out if they have any interest in something in particular or want to talk to someone else that I may know. But just use your resources and just find what you enjoy.
Yeah, I love that, and what, like you say, it's taking the time to kind of explore and see what's out there for you, and you don't have to feel like you're rushing into a decision until you find the right one that fits you. And like for you took that extra year to keep rowing, but to take the time to make sure what happened afterwards was going to be the right move.
Yeah,
very cool. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. I know you are a busy woman over there in London and doing amazing things. So we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us and talk about your experience. So thanks very much. And I hope that the rest of the year goes well. The project with Islington Boxing goes well, and you get all the funding that you need there. So, thanks very much.
Thank you. No, it's been nice to chat. It's nice to hear some Kiwi. Very, very rare over here, but nice to speak to you.
Exciting. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you on the next Beyond the Boat podcast.